Hi, I'm Jim. This is Jim's Little Boat. And today I want to spend some time on pre-1986 boats and this particular valve. This is the scupper valve that goes from the cockpit down through the bottom of the boat. And this one is thoroughly frozen up. If you own one of these pre-86 boats, you're going to have to deal with this problem eventually. In a longer video, I'll show you how I did it. You know, I do the kind of ponderous step-by-step. Here's how I fix it. I'm about halfway through with that project at this point, but I thought I would make just a shorter intro video to show you the choices you have when you fix yours. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to turn the camera around, ask you to look over my shoulder, and I'm going to show you some photographs while I explain what I'm up to and why I chose the method I did. This is my boat when I started out. Bootstrap is in 1977. And most of you are going to have a mess like this if nobody's ever worked on your boat. The gate valve on the right is the one that actually goes through the volcano and lets the water out into the very tip top of the keel housing. The one at the left works fine, but it went to a sink and I've disconnected the sink. In fact, somebody before me disconnected the sink. So that's no longer a value. The problem is that when you go to take that valve out and change it because it's frozen, the pipe that goes with it down into the volcano is going to come with it. And that's going to be a problem because you'll be left with this hole through the bottom of your boat. But then you have to make some decisions about how you're going to repair this and if you're going to stick with the original configuration. So basically you have two solutions. You can fix what you already have or modify it a little bit, or you can make a more major modification and bring this pipe all the way back to the back of the cockpit. If you do that, you'll need some check valves there, but notice the pipe is never below the water line, so that might recommend itself as a fix. Kevin Patton is a gentleman who lives here in Olympia, retired master sergeant, good sailor, great mechanic, and he did a really workmanlike fix. His tube came loose too, so he epoxied it back into the volcano. Then he added a nice bronze fitting and a T, and he put in some good radiator hoses that are substantially better than what came with my boat. And the only problem with Kevin's fix is it's still going to clog right here. Those little fur needles are going to come down and they're going to get stuck, and you can't stick a wire and make the turn to clean it out. So while this is a good fix and workmanlike, and I know Kevin, he's a good craftsman, I don't doubt that fix is going to work, but that doesn't solve the problem of the clogged scuppers. Don't forget one of the possible fixes. You could just disconnect the scuppers, plug them, plug the hole in the bottom, and let the water accumulate in the cockpit until it goes out retrofitted scuppers at the back of the cockpit. The only problem with that is this end of the cockpit is about 4 inches lower than this end of the cockpit, and I calculated it. You will collect 15 gallons of water before that starts to flow out the back holes. Now, that's a problem to have 15 gallons of water laying in your cockpit unattended. Now, if you don't have those holes, the water will accumulate until it overflows into the cabin and your boat will eventually sink. Now, granted, that's not going to happen to most of us, but I've seen boats close to sinking when they were left alone on a mooring buoy. It rains a lot here in Washington. And if you go away and forget about your boat, you might come back and find it sitting on the bottom. This is the second variation on the straightaway fix that Kevin did. This one's by Kiel, and it's published actually in the Catalina Tech Manual. But what he did was bring down 2 hoses from the scuppers straight into the valves and then through the bottom, and of course then he plugged up the volcano where the hole used to go. And I'm going to use a variation of this idea. I think, however, that I'm going to crisscross the hoses so they drain better and they're farther away from the water when the boat's on a heel. We'll see if that's a better solution or not, but I think that's the one I'll pursue. There is a fourth solution. This one comes to us from Jerry Wayne. I saw it posted on the Facebook pages for Catalina 22. What Jerry has done is he brought the scuppers down, but instead of taking them down through the bottom, he did move them along the cockpit and back and brought them out the outside of the transom. In order to execute this, he had to install a check valve or a flapper valve back here at the transom. And this is what the pipe looks like. It's a different photograph. That's what the pipe looks like as it goes back to the transom. I've measured this with a water level. You've got 7.5 inches to play with between the bottom of the cockpit and the floor, so you can get it in there. That's about 2 inches, I'm going to guess, above the water line. So you got 3 choices to make and decidedly different approaches. All of them have to do with getting that pipe out of there and plugging the hole. Jerry's solution is pretty attractive because it doesn't involve cutting any holes in the bottom of your boat, but it does have 2 downsides that I can see. The first one is you've got this hard right angle turn, this elbow. That's a place for fir needles to get stuck. And the second downside is if you're an old fat guy like me, installing that pipe inside the hull could be a little bit difficult, particularly on this side. Now, I could probably get in there, but it's not something I would enjoy doing. Well, thanks for watching. I've made my choice. The next video is about half done. Next couple days, I'll actually take the drill to the bottom of the boat. If you'd like to see how it turned out, watch part B of this video. I think the title will be, Hell Yes, I'd like to drill 2 holes in the bottom of my boat.